Well, hello there, team. Thanks for joining me on this monster project with GLMV. All right, so this video is regarding layers. You got to do the layer mapping. So how do you do that process? So I've got an Excel spreadsheet that the theory here is I've already been doing some of the layer mapping. So if the layer name pops up again, that should have already been done a while ago. So I'm trying to make it as efficient as possible to do the layer mapping. All right, so what do I mean by that? Well, let's just take a look, for example, at NetApp and what they need. So they've been given a, they gave GLMV, and GLMV in turn gave to us, the NetApp standards. And so they've got it's based off of AIA, but it's not exactly AIA. So they got their own kind of take on it. And if we look at, the sheet index and all this other stuff, they have roughly 2,000 or so layers, unique layers that we can use. Now the drawings, they've been made by different architects, different architectural studios, so the drawings don't necessarily match up what the NetApp standards are. And forgive the background noise here. The Bimbox fan just kicked on really hard, so there's a little bit of extra noise. So how do we do this? And I'm going to show you my method here, and it involves several things. Okay, so first things first. Here's the NetApp layer mapping Excel file. I've got it up on OneDrive. If you haven't already been invited to it, you will be invited to it. So the thing that we're looking for here is the old versus new mapping template. Okay, if you don't see it, there are a lot of tabs. Okay, so over here on the far left, you can scroll left and right, as you can see here. So if you don't see it, you can scroll. But if you right click on it, you can see the list, okay? And the template that we're using is called this one, old versus new template, okay? The idea here is we're going to enter the old layer name, and then we're going to be able to pick from the list the 2,000 layers from NetApp, okay? It's kind of a pain, and yes, we have to do this manually. This is part of our task. This is why we won the project. So how do I extract the layer names? Okay, so I'll show you guys how I've done that. I'm going to start with my next project. So this one I'm going to start here is for Steven, okay? So I've got all of the files, and the next one I'm going to start is on Sydney, okay, Sydney. So I'll go ahead and open up the AutoCAD file, and if I bring up my layer manager, you see here on the left, those are all the layers. Now I would hate for anyone to have to copy paste this into the Excel spreadsheet, and I found a faster way to do that, and that's with another list routine, okay? It's called LLTF. Now I didn't make this one, somebody else did, so it doesn't follow my standards. However, when I type that, and if I bring in my text screen here, my command prompt screen, you're going to see that when I typed LLTF, it gave me this nil confirmation, okay? So that tells me that it extracted what it needed to. So what it's doing is it's extracting it, and I'll pop this open here, the list routine here, and I had to go decipher it just to make sense of what it was. So you'll see my typical nomenclature on here. It's opening a particular file, okay? This one right here. It's called GLMV layer list. And it's appending information to that list. Appending information. It's I included a couple of lines that I needed. So it's getting the drawing name, okay? And it's also getting the layer name right here. So what it then does is it creates a line for every drawing with a layer name separated with a comma and the drawing name, okay? So these details may not seem relevant, but they are. So here's that file, okay? So this file right here that it's writing, here's that file right here, GLMV layer list. Now if you guys are doing this, you'll have to redefine, what folder it's going into, and grab the layer list there. So when I open this, and this is a Notepad++, the software that I use, for my text manager here. This is a Notepad++ thing. So it says, hey, you have it open currently. It's been modified by another program. Do you want to reload it? Yes, I do. So here's the list of all of the layers and the drawing names for every instance. At the bottom, I can see that there's 172 lines. This is Notepad++. And I just want to confirm, is that how many layers are located here? So I've got 171 layers. So, and there's a difference there of 1 line. So the difference is, and if I go down to the bottom, you're going to see that there's a blank line at the end. So this is fine, okay? So the next thing that we have to do is we have to take the correlated list here. So the layer and the drawing, okay? Had I had more drawings, I would have opened the next drawing and run it again. And then it would say, for example, EC1 zone numbers for whatever layer it happens to be, comma, Sydney_7, Sydney_8, right? So Sydney_7.dwg, that's the file name. And I wanted to make sure that I captured it because sometimes when you're trying to map these complex drawings, for example, if I go look at one that's really complex, this particular project has 20 drawings, okay? So I need to know if this particular layer is on building 1, floor 1, and the next layer here is on building 4, floor 3, right? So this is why I've extracted the name of the drawing as well. This won't be relevant in all cases, but I don't want to modify the list routine, so that's what it's doing. Okay, so we're here. We've got this list. Now what? What do we do with this? How do we get this into Excel? Well, I'll just use my Control A to select all, Control C to copy, and then in Excel, we need to make a new mapping template specifically for that particular, a new sheet rather, or a new tab, a new sheet for that particular project. Okay, so I start off by making a brand new sheet. So I'll go ahead and put that here. I'm going to drag it so that the mapping template is always on the end, right? And again, if I right click on these arrows, you're going to see that the old versus new mapping template, I want that to stay on the end, okay? So here's sheet 2. We're going to rename this the project name, which is Sydney. Okay. So we've gotten step 1 taken care of. We got a new sheet representing that project. Regardless of how many floors, they're all going to be on this one project, okay? Or drawings, rather. So, for example, the Sunnyvale project, it has 20 different drawings, and you're going to see all of those drawings listed here, right? Got 20 different drawings. Okay, so we're in the Sydney blank sheet. How do we get that in? So as you saw, I copied this earlier, and I'm just going to paste that into my Sydney right here. Okay, so we need this to have 2 columns so that the layer name is on the first column, and then on the second column we have the drawing name. So how do we do that? Well, if you simply click on the column A, and if you go to data, okay, there's this feature under the data tools panel called text to columns, and it brings up this dialog box, convert text to columns wizard. So I want to do a delimited feature here, so I'll hit next, and what I'm looking for, guys, is I'm looking for that comma, and that's going to be my delimiter. So whenever it sees the column, it's going to split that into, whenever it sees the comma, it's going to split that into the different columns. So I'll remove tab, I'll do comma, and you can see the format there. It's now showing 1 column for layers and 1 column for drawings. And I'll hit finish. Okay, we're not done yet. What we want to do is we want to ensure at the very first row, row 1, if you right click on that row, you can insert, and we want to make sure that we have layers and drawings as the column headers. Okay. Next, we need to make a table out of this. This will help from a visual standpoint figure everything else out, and it'll help us sort everything alphabetically. Okay, so I'll start at A1. I'll hold Shift, use the arrow on my keyboard to go to the right. Now I'm going to hold Shift and Control and hit the arrow down button. That takes me all the way down to the bottom of the list, regardless of how short or long it is. Okay. Then I hit Control T as in Tom. Control T as in Tom. That's the shortcut for making a new table out of your selection. So this is the Create Table dialog box, and it's showing you the range. Okay. This one has this enabled, which is my table has headers, which is layer and drawings. So if you click OK, we've just formatted that entire list that we got from AutoCAD into Excel. Okay, that's our step one here. And then if I just click on the two columns, highlight them both, and use the expansion button there, it'll expand it so we can see it clearly. We need to delete. First, we need to sort these alphabetically, or rather than doing that, you can do it in whatever order you need to, but we need to get rid of layer 0 and layer Defpoints. It's going to appear on almost every drawing, but it's not relevant. So we can simply highlight those two rows, right click and delete. Okay. Now we can sort it by just using the drop down for the layers. I want to sort it by layers. I want to sort it by layers. Okay. A to Z. And it'll sort all of that out A to Z. Okay. So now we have our list and it's sorted. Layer 0 is gone. Defpoints is gone. Good. All right. So the next step then is we have to get this list that we just created from the extraction of AutoCAD. We have to get it into our template, into our mapping template. Okay, so this is the next step. What you'll do is you'll select the template. Please don't overwrite this. Just select the template, right click, and use this option to move or copy. You want to be very deliberate here. Okay, put it at the end of the list, second to last. So you'll literally click old versus new mapping, and then you're going to ensure that you create a copy. Okay, so select old versus new mapping template and make a copy. So what that does is it makes a new copy between Sydney and the old mapping template. I can tell it's the copy because it has the parentheses here. Okay. Also, you'll see that in the overall list here, you'll see that it's the penultimate copy is the penultimate one, right? So we will rename this tab by right-clicking on the tab itself, rename. So the name is Old versus New Mapping, and then the name of the project, which is Sydney. Okay, I just hit enter to end that, and now we can safely take the list here from our Sydney project, the stuff that we extracted out of AutoCAD. Okay, I'll just hit Control Shift up arrow. I'm going to let go of Control, continue to hold Shift, and then the down arrow. So that takes me down and avoids me grabbing the layer, the header. So now I'll just right click and copy. Now in the new old versus new mapping for the Sydney project, I'll get to column A2, cell A2 rather, and then I'll just paste the values. Okay, so you're gonna see stuff happen on the right, which is intended. This orange table here is a helper table. You're gonna see how that works momentarily. Then what you do is go back to the Sydney tab, the stuff we extracted from AutoCAD. Control Shift up arrow, let go of Control, continue to hold Shift down arrow. Now I can copy this. I'm avoiding grabbing the header here, so I can copy this. Now in new mapping, I'm going to put that in the orange table here, cell E2. Okay, I'll use the paste special, and all I want is the values. Okay, so the reason that this exists is to help you figure out, do I have any any layers that already exist in the conglomerated master list, okay? And as you can see, there's this third column in this table. I'm looking at the top up here. It says done, okay? And you can see in giant green letters, green like money, you don't have to do this anymore. So these layers, you don't have to map them. They've already been mapped, and they're off over here to the side, okay? So you can skip the ones that have done and just continue working with it. Now, some of these drawings have what are referred to as nested drawings. And I can tell that this was an XREF at one point, but it was nested and bound because of the $0 designation here. So this means that it was an XREF at one point, and it was inserted in some fashion or bound to the drawing, the current drawing that we're working on. Now, what I decided to do was, look, I don't care if it's a nested XREF. Did I get that layer name, right? So everything after, to the right of $, that's over here. You can see that, right? And I've already found a layer for lift. It's called AE-LEV01, okay? So the idea here is it's trying to give you some guidance so that you don't have to map every single layer that you ever run into. Because I've already done hundreds, maybe thousands of layers that I've mapped. It's just some of these architects, they don't use a typical layer standard, so I'm running into a lot of new layers. So in this case, this is how we have set it up, and this one is ready to go and check and do the actual work to extract the layers and make the assignments. I'll make a different video on that. So this video is only for how do I make my drawings and map, how do I use Excel rather to help me map these layers. So that's a quick video there. Well, I guess it's not that quick. We're going on 18 minutes here pretty soon. But that's how we do it. That's how we get the layer mapping ready to make sure that we can go and execute on this mapping within AutoCAD. All right, so stay tuned. There will be another video on how to actually do the mapping.